I'm Scott Allen Miller, the Everyday Vlogger, and today I want to talk about why I think Capcut is probably a bad idea for you. All right, so you're just getting into vlogging and you want tools that are easy and quick and are gonna keep you from spending too much money, and just so you decide you want to start with Capcut. A lot of people are using it and it's a powerful tool that you can do quite a few things with, so it's very tempting to get into it. But there's a couple reasons why I don't like Capcut in most cases. Now, keep in mind I'm coming from a YouTube world. If my primary platform was TikTok, I may have a very different opinion. Capcut is actually made by ByteDance, the parent of TikTok, and I have no problem with TikTok. It's a fine platform. ByteDance is a fine company. Nothing against them, but it is a very different format than what we normally talk about here, which is long form YouTube or other full length, horizontally viewed videos. If we're going to be talking about shorts, normally we're talking about something that is an addendum to our long form format and not the primary platform like you do with TikTok. So this is a different world, and TikTok has primary concerns of short, vertical, and captioned, whereas YouTube generally doesn't think of any of those things as being primary. All of them are, of course, possible. Capcut is especially powerful because they focus on captions. They have a massive caption engine, and very few people can compete with them. So they do have a use case, and maybe they're going to be an important part of your portfolio of products that you use for different things because of that. But to use them as your main video editor, I think it does people a disservice. So let's dive into quickly why I think that is. First of all, Capcut is available for free, but so are many other powerful editors. So that's not really a selling point. And it has a paid for version that gives you some extra features. However, those extra features are often things that are not all that good, and it's not super cheap. It's about $5 a month, which comes out to about $60 a year. And when you're talking about $60 a year, it's actually comparable in price to paying for the absolute premium products on the market, which are Final Cut Pro and DaVinci Resolve Studio, both of which are $300. And that license goes for a really long time. So yes, they may be much bigger than $60, but those investments typically last more than 5 years. So the actual cost of a Final Cut Pro or a DaVinci Resolve Studio is probably greater than the investment in Capcut. Just you have to pay it up front instead of paying in monthly installments the way you do with Capcut. But typically you're going to pay annually with Capcut anyway, so it's really not that big of a difference. With that, Capcut does not provide a great value in the free product other than the captions. But remember, with these products, you can mix and match, and as long as you're not paying for them, there's no reason not to use a bunch of different tools for different things. I also don't like that Capcut is not available on Linux. It is only available on Windows and Mac, and on Mac it is not available native, meaning it doesn't run on Apple Silicon. You've got to run Rosetta Stone and convert it, which means it's not running nearly as efficiently as it could, and it adds that extra layer to your computer that a lot of us don't want to have. I run Mac. If something requires Rosetta Stone, I just move on. Don't consider installing it. So my Capcut only runs on Windows, not on Mac, because I want my Mac machines to stay pristine. So Final Cut, DaVinci Resolve, and Shotcut all run just fine on my Apple Silicon, and that gives me an advantage there. So I have lots of tools on my Mac, but if you're on Linux, you already have options like OpenShot, Shotcut, and Flowblade that run really well there, and Kdenlive, of course, all available on Linux, all for free. And of course, DaVinci Resolve runs on all the platforms, so you have lots of good options. Recently, Adobe Premiere completely fell off the map because it was not free, and they didn't offer the same level and quality of products as Final Cut and DaVinci. So why would anyone spend money on that when you could get more for less with other platforms, let alone the free ones that are out there? But that was rarely a competitor for Adobe. And then combine that with Adobe releasing that they've been spying on people, and people want nothing to do with them, and Premiere is all but dead on arrival. So, but Capcut, it may seem like, but it's free, it's really easy, it's got some AI editing tools, it has a bunch of things that make it easy to get started, and that's great about it, and those are good reasons to maybe give it a try. But let's step back and think about what our goals are. Is your goal to be a casual video editor and you don't want to really advance your game? You just want to be able to get something relatively cheap, use it within its limitations, and then let yourself be limited by that and just stop there? If so, then yeah, Capcut could easily be good enough for you as long as its limitations work for you. But the moment you decide, well, I started there, but I want to move on, I want to have better tools, I want to have more access to an ecosystem of tools. For example, if you're on Final Cut Pro or you're on DaVinci Resolve, not Studio, just Resolve, Studio as well, You have access to tools like Motion VFX. For me, Motion VFX is a really big deal. They provide my titles, my lower thirds, my transitions, my LUTs, a whole bunch of things that I use to enhance my videos. None of them are absolutely critical, but when put all together, they make my life a lot easier. Without something like Motion VFX or one of many other companies or products that are like them, you're left with a really anemic system, and anything you want to do either is out of your reach. Maybe you have to send it out to a studio to do that little bit of editing for you. For example, if you had Capcut, but you wanted to use my lower thirds, you could send it to me and hire my studio to add some lower thirds to you and send it back. That would be super weird and expensive, but like you could, that's a workflow. Or if you had multiple people and one had Final Cut and one had Capcut, yes, there's ways to transfer between them, but none of this is great. You're making a very convoluted system where it doesn't need to be. For less money, in most cases, you could, so if you're using the free version of Capcut, consider the free version of DaVinci or Shotcut or any number of really good, completely free tools. They're going to give you just as much or more, except for the captioning, pretty much across the board. DaVinci is going to give you just so much more. And if you're willing to spend that $60 a year, then you're looking at DaVinci Resolve Studio or Final Cut Pro as options, and they would not just be similar in price, they would almost certainly be less expensive. That is a big deal, that instead of spending normally, you spend less and get less. But in this case, by spending less, you get more. And so trying to do less as someone starting off in editing, I think you do yourself a disservice, because you end up wasting money and wasting time and effort, and your energy goes into learning a tool that is lesser when you could be focused on Final Cut or DaVinci and learning a tool that is going to grow with you indefinitely. You're never going to get to a point where those are not the right tools for you. They go as big as you can get. They do Hollywood studio releases without any problem. So investing your time into learning one of those two from the very beginning is going to give you the best overall results. So even if you're a vlogger and you're just looking to get started, I understand we want to do whatever it takes to get videos out as quickly as possible without barriers. But we also want to be smart about it and not spend time, and especially not spend money, learning and investing in a tool system that may not grow with us even after the first few months, let alone the first few years. We want to put our time and effort and money into something that is going to last. So for me, yes, I started with Shotcut. Actually, I started with OpenShot on another channel a long time ago. I moved to Shotcut when I wanted to move into something a little bit more standard and modern. Shotcut will feel a lot like Final Cut Pro. And then when I was ready to start using third-party tools, I made the leap into Final Cut Pro. I spent the money and started buying Motion VFX tooling, and that has proven to me to be absolutely excellent. I'm super happy with it. That you could do the same thing with DaVinci Resolve and save some of that money. I was on Mac, and at the time, DaVinci hadn't moved over yet. If I was starting it all over again today, I easily would choose DaVinci Resolve, because it is looking like the superior product in most cases. But I'm very happy with Final Cut, and I think you could be too. Play around with them, see what you like, but do so before you really start investing, and then go down the path of an ecosystem that makes sense for you, and not hop around because you're going to lose time and effort. And instead of growing your YouTube channel, you're going to be putting time into learning another tool again and going through that time period of regaining that expertise. I think also that Capcut heavily encourages a very stylized type of editing that is popular in the TikTok world and pushes that, whereas other tools like Final Cut and DaVinci are a little bit more open and leave it open to your interpretation as to where you want to go. Of course, you can do amazing things with Capcut. You can do very serious stuff with it. It's not saying that you can't. I'm saying that there's an encouragement, and if you're new to editing, having an ecosystem that encourages that kind of stuff versus one that encourages a more measured approach may also be something that is to be considered for value. That having a better tool set, a more mature tool set, may focus you in a better way. And you just know that when you're working with those, no matter what comes along, your tool set's going to be able to handle it. And of course, if you want to use Final Cut and DaVinci, they can speak to each other. You can move files back and forth, not a problem at all. So I think there's a lot of good options out there. There's really good choices, but I don't think Capcut is generally going to be one of them unless you're using it purely as a captioning tool after the fact. If you want to have it as part of your pipeline, not a problem at all. just be aware that that's probably where its strength lies. And if you're going to be focusing on it, you may want to rethink that. I think that it's a bad choice overall. I really think that for almost anyone, if you're super casual and all you care about is being able to get out some basic videos and you have no plans to grow whatsoever, yes, Capcut might be okay for you. And certainly like Shotcut, which is where I was working, I think is a good choice as well. If you ever do outgrow it, you haven't invested any money, and moving on to something else is pretty easy, and its support for formats is unmatched. Plus, you can run it on Apple Silicon, so if you're and on Linux, so no matter where you end up going, you can take Shotcut with you. It is the most portable, but DaVinci Resolve also portable to all the major systems. Those are just so flexible. They're great ways to get started. If you really love Final Cut, that is great too. So Shotcut, if you know you want to be limited and free and you just want something a little bit easier and lighter and you don't care about moving up to DaVinci Resolve, but I think that's very niche for nearly everyone. DaVinci Resolve is just going to be the answer. Move up to Studio if you eventually need features that regular Resolve doesn't do for you. Just $295. It's a small investment compared to everything else. And if you really like the Apple ecosystem, or you play with Final Cut or already have experience with Final Cut and feel that you just like its workflow, you want to keep working with it the way that it is, and it's worth spending a little bit more money, having a little bit more lock-in, like with me, not a big deal at all, then $300 or $299. Get into Final Cut Pro, you'll be happy with that. But really, Final Cut and DaVinci Resolve, that's what you should be looking at, and I really encourage you to look at tools like Capcut and any of those other like make it easy products. Step back and say, whoa, does this actually make it easy? Sure, for the very first video, maybe the first 3 videos, but once I'm to the point where I'm no longer struggling to edit my videos, is it making my life easier, or is it getting in the way? And now I have limitations or patterns or costs that I shouldn't have, and now I'm being held back in my YouTube journey because I picked tools that felt easy, that promoted themselves to hobbyist, when in reality, for less money or for about the same money, I could have had professional tools that would have grown with me indefinitely. That is probably the better way to go. Thanks for joining me. Like and subscribe. If you'd like to help support the channel, you can buy me a coffee at buymeacoffee.com/Scott Alan Miller, and I'll see all of you next time.